What's up everybody, AJ from Knights of the Apex here. It's been way too long since I made one of these videos. I actually recorded a whole bunch of YouTube videos back in the fall, and then most of the kit that I used in those videos has been replaced by new versions, and I ended up changing a whole bunch of things. So there's like 3 different saddle videos that I probably recorded throughout the fall that will never see the light of day, but I'll have to make an update to those going into the fall. But today, something I'm really psyched about, I've got my M2 Turkey Vest. I'm going to go over some of my other turkey kit. Turkey hunting is actually my favorite type of hunting to do. Something about calling to them, running and gunning. I've been working with Tethrd for the last couple months, so I got one of these M2 vests from them, and I finally have a dedicated turkey hunting loadout, which is not something that I had up until this season. I was always just repurposing my whitetail gear for turkey hunting, and it was always awkward and clunky. I've been messing around with this M2 Turkey Vest for a couple of weeks now in the field. If you guys follow on Instagram, you've probably seen this in several different configurations, and I'll talk about that. But this setup that you guys see right now is what I've just really found to be the most efficient. I'm by no means an expert. I'm pretty mid at hunting across the board, but hopefully some of the lessons that I've learned will help save you guys some money when you go to set up your own turkey vest, whether you end up getting an M2 or something else. But we'll get into it. As I go through the vest, I'll probably talk about some of the different kit considerations and how I arrived at some of the stuff that I did. When you go on Tethrd's website and you start the vest builder to order yours, you'll get a number of options. The vest itself comes with a belt and this yoke system, as well as 2 horizontal M2 pouches that I have mounted to either side of the belt. Then you get a option for either a bird bag, which is what I have right here, or a small lumbar / backpack type pack. I do have the backpack as well. You also get a seat that comes standard. I do have the backpack as well. I did mess around with that. Ultimately, I found that I liked the bird bag a bit more. I use the bird bag as kind of just like a general purpose dump pouch. I've got my leafy jacket in there. I'll also throw my Nalgene bottle, sometimes a decoy if you're running and gunning and you don't have time to put stuff back in a zippered pocket or something. I'll throw some stuff back there. But I do like the bird bag. It's also mesh backed and rides a little lower, so it breathes a little bit easier than the backpack did. What I found with the backpack was I don't store a whole lot of stuff back there anyway, but when I did need to get something, I had to take my shoulder straps off and kind of twist the thing around to get in the pockets. There are a lot of nice organizational pockets in there, so if you've got a lot of little things that you may need occasionally, it is a good option. But instead what I did was I built out this bird bag by adding 2 of the vertical M2 pouches to either side of it. So there are, you can kind of see, but there are MOLLE panels on the semi-rigid frame of the bird bag, and I just mounted 2 vertical pouches on there to increase my storage, give me some additional organization for some of those items that I don't need very often, but I do want on my person. Because my thought process with my turkey vest is I probably don't need most of this stuff every time I go out, but what I like about having a turkey vest set up is I want this to be the kitchen sink, right? I want this to be grab and go, everything that I could possibly need to kill a turkey in here. Just grab my gun, decoys, and add water and snacks, and I'm good to go. With that being said, I have more storage than I probably need, and I'll start going through some of the pouches, how I have this organized and whatnot. I like the bungee attachment that they have here. So if, you know, let's say you wanted to put decoys in your bird bag, or you could probably even tie up your decoys here if you wanted to. I wouldn't do that on public land, but private land maybe. I've got my New York tags hanging right there. You've got to have your tags visible on the back of your jacket or your vest when you're hunting in New York. On what would be my back. Ooh, before I get into the pouches, let me show you guys how I have this thing rigged up right now. So The seat itself, you've got, what's nice about the M2 vest is there's a lot of anchor points, and the clips are detachable, so you can move like where the seat clips in, how some of the pockets attach, and some of those little details, which is really nice for getting this vest set up exactly how you want it set up. I like keeping the front of my body nice and clean, just because it's hot here in Florida, so I want to be able to breathe. And also sometimes, you know, you get a lot of silent birds down here, and you might be gobbling to one bird in front of you, but you might have another tom sneak up behind you, work its way into your decoys. So sometimes you got to transition left or right with the shotgun. I just don't like having a lot of stuff in front of me when I am turkey hunting. So with that in mind, the yoke, I actually mounted the shoulder straps to the furthest molly position here on the belt. You can have them mounted on the front, more like suspenders. I like mounting them more on the back. Reason being, you can see it cleans up the whole front of me, and then when I'm sitting down, or if I'm walking and I'm not worried about making noise or anything, I can unbuckle my waist belt, and then this brings the waist belt off and actually removes some of the contact on my lower back, so I can just breathe and cool off that much more efficient. So it may look a little different than how a lot of guys have it run, but that's how I like running the yoke system on this thing. But getting into the pouches themselves, and I'll move this so it's easier for you guys to see. The seat on this thing is really nice and comfortable. It's got a good pad on there, and you guys probably saw there's some rubberized bottom, so it's nice and durable. But on these vertical pouches, I've got wet wipes, because that's just essential. And then my thermocell, as well as these Velcro, all the M2 pouches have hook and loop material, either on the vertical ones, it's on the back side, on the horizontal ones, it's on the front and back. But Tethrd gives you these little organizer pouches, so I've just got some extra fuel for the thermocell, and the little thermocell packets. I don't always run a thermocell, but on those days where the bugs are just really, really gnarly, I'm always glad that I have that, so I keep that there. On what would be my back right, I've got a couple of turkey feathers. I always just keep a couple of wing feathers in there, so if I want to do fly down or something, I just think it sounds a lot better than using your hat. But I'm also, you know, I don't do it that often, so I don't bother bringing a whole wing. In the pouch itself, the only thing I keep in here is actually I'll have my turkey tote. This is just one that I made out of some paracord. I like having a turkey tote just because I just think it's an easier way to walk out of the woods with a bird, instead of putting it in the bird bag, and then if it's bleeding, which it's always bleeding if it's in my bag, it's not going down my back and my butt crack and the back of my legs. And then the only other thing I keep in here is an extra set of gloves and a face mask, because sometimes the guy you're with forgot his, or you know, as you're moving, getting in and out of the truck while you're half asleep, sometimes you know, you forget something or you drop something, so always pays to have an extra set. In the bird bag, I'll just keep like a sweatshirt or something, or another layer. I'll also I like at least having a leafy top like this. I think this is from Old Tom. I got this on sale because with most of the mapping software, like I've got Onyx, with your membership to that, you get discounts to some clothing companies, so I use that to get a leafy top. I've been wearing Kings a lot for my hunts, both in the fall and for turkey season, and I like that a lot. But sometimes you get into an area where you're like, this is a little lighter or a little more tan, or you know, the camo that I'm wearing, you're just a little nervous. So I like having this because I can always throw it over my legs. I could throw it over a buddy if I don't trust the camo that they're wearing, or if I think that like the Kings, that XKG pattern, if I'm in an area where like I just think, you know, I'm in a burn and I think that XKG pattern might be a little light, then I can throw this leafy top on, and it's a nice lightweight option to just give me a little bit more breakup. moving around to the front of my M2, on the yoke, I've got my knife. This is a Montana knife company. This is the Stoned Goat. So it's just a nice lightweight knife with some paracord. I really like the blade profile. Just works awesome for skinning, and it's plenty sharp, and it's got a sharp tip. So it's also got enough meat on there so you can pop socket joints. Not that, you know, that's a concern with turkeys. You could do that by hand, but it, you know, for other animals, it's nice to have. On this side, on the two little expandable pouches, I've got just my locator call. This is a triple locator call from Phelps Game Calls. So if you break this thing open, there's 3 grooves on here with an O-ring, and when you move that O-ring, it'll give you a different call. So right now I have this set to Owl Screech, which is something that you'll hear very often right before legal shooting light here. It's common to hear an owl give a screech. As the day goes on, there's also settings on here so you can get a hawk screech and a woodpecker, which are 2 very common birds and very common calls that I hear in the areas that I hunt. When I am using the owl screech, I will pair it up with a hooter. This is a Harrison owl hooter, also from Phelps. Just because those 2 go naturally, you'll hear the owl screech, which is just 1 tone, and then the reason I have the owl hooter is because, as you heard, my natural hoot is not that great. In this side pocket, you know, I'll have my set of gloves and face mask. This is my main set of gloves and a face mask. I'll have my shells. These are Boss Tom number 9 tungsten 3-inch in 20 gauge. Been using my trusty 20 gauge. I also keep a set of pruning shears. I'll ditch these. I'll leave these in my truck if I'm hunting public land, because you're not allowed to have that on most WMAs in Florida. But you know, especially on private, sometimes you tuck into palmettos or something, or you can cut some palmettos and make yourself a little hide. Another thing that I added to my kit this year, this is the Endurance ED from Hawk Optics. Sounds like an erectile dysfunction medication, but this is actually a monocular from Hawk Optics. The guys at Hawk have been making some really cool and unique solutions in the optics world, and at a friendly price point too. So those guys actually recommended that I pick up one of these monoculars when I described the type of hunting that I was going to be doing, and I've really liked having this. This thing is so nice and light. I can actually, I'm planning on throwing this on my duck call lanyard for duck season, but this is a little 8-power monocle that's just really handy for sometimes you get some birds in the field or off in the distance, and just picking out where exactly the gobbler is if they're not strutting, because you know, past 100 yards sometimes it can be hard to tell, you know, Jake, hens, what's going on over there. Even here in Florida, some of the buzzards are so big and the Osceola is so small that it can be hard to tell the difference at distance. So that's just been something really nice to have. In the zip pocket in here, I'll keep my headlamp, as well as this little pump multi-tool from Leatherman. This is a shotgun specific multi-tool. I don't really find that I've ever needed this because all of the chokes on all the turkey chokes these days are external, but this actually has a choke tube tool on there, which I have had to use, you know, for buddies that have internal chokes on their guns, for tightening those things up. But that's it on this side. I have just been keeping ironically, I've lost quite a few strikers and mouth calls this year, but always when I had them in a zippered pouch for some reason, I guess when I would get up to run, I would just forget them at the base of a tree. But I've started just keeping my strikers in the molly attachment points that are behind these pouches, and that's been working fine. Also keeps them nice and handy. but just in case, I've been writing my name and my number on all of them, just in case. On this side, I'll keep my pot calls. I've actually started moving towards all weatherproof or waterproof calls, just because here in Florida, even when it's not raining, it's still humid out, and it just seems to kill the volume on all of the friction calls. So even though you lose some of the quality with going to the waterproof calls, they're just a little bit louder. And typically when I start off in the morning, I'm starting off with my mouth tab anyway, because I'm not the greatest caller with a mouth tab, but if I can get a bird to respond to that, then that's the call that I'm gonna wanna go to anyway once they come in close, because it's hands-free. So if I can get a bird to start responding to my mouth tab right from jump, then I'm gonna stick with that. If I can't, that's when I'm gonna start moving to the friction calls. My pot calls, the weatherproof ones, I'll always be a little higher pitch versus my box call. And then this little poplar girl, this is kind of like a backup call. This thing's just nice and tiny, but still plenty loud. This is a slate on poplar call. So a nice loud little call. Then in this pocket, I've got my mouth calls. I'll throw this on first thing in the morning. It's just a little NWTF organizer that I got with my membership last year. Also, guys, in all of my pockets, I'll throw these little silica gel pockets that seem to come with any sort of clothes or order you get. And then in this side, you guys already saw, I've got my owl hooter, and then I'll keep my box call. Something I do to my box calls is I'll take my knife and I'll make a little notch on the bottom on either side of the call, and then I'll just take one of my wife's hair ties or a piece of bungee or something, and I'll put that around to keep the box call nice and tight, so that it's quiet when I'm walking around. And then I can just throw that around my wrist so that it's not making noise, and then when I'm ready to call, and then when I'm done, I can just take that off my wrist, and now it's ready to go, and it's nice and quiet again. In the zip pocket, the only thing I got in here is a little conditioning kit. I got this from Bass Pro Shop. It's from Redhead. It's just some sandpaper and a little like Brillo pad and some chalk, just for conditioning up my calls if they're getting a little dull. So pretty minimalist setup overall. I really liked having this vest setup versus, you know, trying to repurpose some of my deer hunting stuff. So far, really liked running this. The material that it's made in, this mossy oak, it's nice and soft and quiet, and it doesn't get too hot. Tethrd did a good job of putting mesh in all of the areas where, you know, you're typically overheating. So good mixture of durability and sound deadening, or whatever you want to call that, noise dampening. There you go. That's always like the trade-off, it seems, right? Your stuff's either really quiet or it's durable. Just a really good quality, made in the USA turkey vest, which is really cool. I'm glad that the guys from Tethrd did that, and they've been bringing some really cool solutions to the market, and it's been an honor and a lot of fun to work with those guys, because they've been an industry leader, especially in the saddle space, for a long time. And I'm definitely going to do another video on my saddle setup, because there's been a lot of things that I've tweaked there, and I feel like I have a really good safe system down for my saddle setup. And I know I've been getting a lot of questions in DMs every time I post that. So guys, that's my turkey kit. Gonna keep running it. Going to a buddy's place this weekend to help him try and get his first birds. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and be on the lookout for the next video. Good to be back, and I'll catch you guys next time.